Peter Mathews. He is a professor of political science at Cyprus College. Thanks so much for your time, Professor. Give us an idea of what this means for America more broadly. We just heard there from the reporter that the country is indeed watching the outcome of this. What hinges on this outcome?
A lot hinges on it, and that has to do with the credibility of the U.S. criminal justice system and whether there's justice in this country or not for a person regardless of the color of their skin. And this is the anniversary of Dr. King's death, 4 days from now, April the 4th. And the man had talked about judging someone by the content of the character, not the color of their skin. And here's the question. Was the person's color of his skin, George Floyd's skin color, the main reason that he was basically stepped on to death with 9 minutes of an officer's knee on his throat? And the credibility of the defense witnesses, the witnesses today were amazing because his girlfriend spoke movingly. The paramedics who came and spoke about them seeing him already dead. They guessed he was dead when they saw him, when they got there. They tried to revive him in the ambulance, and he didn't respond at all. So all of this was physical and emotional connection today. And the entire nation is right now physically and emotionally connected to this trial.
Professor, tell us about this part of America. Is it a part of America that has seen this kind of police violence or racial profiling?
It really is a huge part of this problem, and it's something we as Americans have to confront and overcome and get over it and change it. Because if you look, for example, at how many police officers have been convicted of murder in the last 15 years, it's been 4. And there's a principle called qualified immunity, which is something right now being in question because that gives police officers all virtual, complete, almost carte blanche to do a lot of what they do, and sometimes untoward. They do things that are over the line and results in death because of this qualified immunity. So how to bring and redo qualified immunity in a way that will still protect the police officers, but most importantly, protect the public they're supposed to be serving, and especially based on racial profiling. So yes, this is part of America, tragically, but we have to overcome it. We've taken steps away from some of the terrible discrimination that occurred after the Civil War, Jim Crow laws, and yet we've got still a ways to go, quite a ways to go. And to think that just after so many decades that we still face these kinds of things, so many African Americans, men mostly, but also women were killed, Breonna Taylor, so many others in the last few years with not much reason whatsoever.
Yes, indeed, and not just America, but the world, I think, has a very close eye on this justice process as well. Can I change tack for a moment to, I think, a really unreported tragic event that is happening in Myanmar at the moment? There doesn't seem to be a lot of energy from other Western nations to really intervene here in Myanmar. And what is happening? Well, we only know a fraction of what is happening, and it could be on the verge of some kind of genocide, couldn't it?
Absolutely. It is very tragic. It is something the United Nations Security Council should take up immediately. In fact, the High Commissioner for Human Rights said there will be a complete it's like a genocide if it doesn't take care, if it's not taken care of right now by the Security Council members and the rest of the international community. And I do believe that the Western nations that talk about their belief in democracy and freedom and human rights have a moral obligation to act on this, and they could do it through the channels of the United Nations. The Security Council is an apparatus for that purpose, and they should not be taking their own sweet time, because look at what's happening in this country. Those pictures you're showing right now, throughout the country, the decimation and killing of thousands, if not more, of the people, of the civilians in Myanmar by the military dictatorship, which has been in power since 1962, and which seized power from a civilian government that was elected democratically just recently. And that's something that the other countries of the Western world especially should be involved with.
And Professor, I think a recent phenomena, and perhaps it was even sped along more by the presidency of Donald Trump, but there seems a reluctance, a greater reluctance in our environment, and I'm talking about, you know, the political environment right around the world at the moment, to intervene in another country's affairs. Do you believe that to be true? And if you do, why is it that there is that reluctance? And to put it quite indelicately, why do people not care so much about Myanmar, it seems?
Well, Myanmar is a smaller country in the world. It's not involved in global power politics, although I must say that it's an example of what the world is overlooking, and this occurs in different parts of the world, not just Myanmar. But I think it has to do also with not wanting to rock the boat. A lot of times there's trade issues involved. I think if China and South Korea would get involved also directly with the Myanmar dictatorship right now, because they have a lot of trade and investment there, they could have a pull with this military government to back off. But the world should really work through the United Nations to get involved here and really bring this to heel and stop this horrible onslaught that's going on. And I think we should put aside other kinds of questions of trade and technology transfer and this and that. Instead, look at human rights, because to me, that's the most fundamental basic right in the world. And if we don't adhere to that as democracies or people who claim to be democracies, which every country in the world pretty much claims to be, then we don't have much of a community.
Professor Peter Mathews, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.